Well, let's start with the day's market action. The Sensex and the Nifty gave up intraday gains, ending marginally in the red. But it was another volatile day of trade with financial stocks dragging the markets. The Nifty Bank Index lost over 250 points. Mid-caps, though, did manage to buck the trend, with the index ending with marginal gains. As per provisional data from the exchanges, foreign institutional investors have sold stock worth more than 2,800 crore rupees today. On the other hand, domestic institutional investors have bought stock worth more than 3,500 crore rupees today. Anuj joins us now to wrap up the market action. Anuj.
Well, just the kind of the day where both bulls and bears would take something away. The market is near a very important support mark. All the rallies today got sold into. The first rally, which was maybe an obvious trade, but the post-noon rally also got sold into. But while every rally was getting sold into, every time the Nifty was coming close to 200-day moving average, it was taking support. So that really is your Lakshman Rekha now. The Bank Nifty underperformed once again, fourth day in a row that it's happened, though the broader market did show some stability. As I said, the banks were down, so ICICI, Kotak, SBI and the HDFC Twins dragged the markets, and there were some others like Hero MotoCorp, Titan and Tata Steel. On the gaining side, you had some stocks like Cipla, Tata Consumer, Shree Cement, though they don't make up for much of the index. And IT did well, especially in the last 1 hour or so. Names like TCS and Infosys did bounce back. Outside the index, the big sector to watch was city gas distribution. And of course, big names like Gujarat Gas, IGL, MGL were all higher. The setup is clear, but the Nifty must defend the 200-day moving average or this zone. Otherwise, the bears might just start to press home their advantage.
Anuj, many thanks for joining us. And staying with market sentiment, a money control survey to gauge market mood finds that investors remain positive and are not too worried about the market fall. Over 77% of fund managers polled in the survey believe that key indices will not decline by more than 5 to 10% in FY23, and that is despite rising concerns of a global recession. Fund managers also expect the domestic market to consolidate the gains that have been seen hitting their 52-week lows back in June, suggesting that buying the dip is likely to remain the best strategy going forward. Well, in the currency market, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says the Indian currency is holding well against the dollar. Speaking exclusively at the CNN News 18 town hall, she said India is much better placed than many other countries whose currencies have plummeted very sharply against the dollar. Meanwhile, the Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Sheth said India's forex reserves are fairly large, adding that concerns over the depletion of reserves are overblown. Take a look.
We are far better than many other countries whose currencies have fallen pathetically against the US dollar. RBI is not aiming at fixing the exchange rate. The government doesn't believe in it. Indian rupee and its exchange rates, the rate is also left to the markets to decide how it's going to float or get fixated at some level. So RBI's intervention is more to avoid the fluctuation.
It is not a concern, and the view which you are expressing is overblown. Because if you recall that about 2 years back, when the reserves were of the same order, even then the discourse coming out in media, etc., and even by even other informed persons, was that we have adequate reserves when they were 2 years back. Now, yes, there has been a depletion because of the inflows have come down, and at the same time the trade deficit at a higher level. But I don't see as a concern. India has a fairly large reserves.
Well, that's the government on the rupee. Now, India will not be included in the JP Morgan Global Bond Index this year. This, according to a Reuters report. India's inclusion has been pushed back to next year, and the delay has been caused by various operational issues, is what Reuters is reporting. There has been no official comment from JP Morgan. On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. The Kirit Parikh panel has sought more time to review the pricing formula for domestic natural gas. Parikh has told CNBC-TV18 that the panel cannot do justice to the issue in 2 weeks since the committee was formed. They had been given time till September end to submit their report. Parikshit is standing by with more. Parikshit, what does this then mean for the review of prices, which was expected on the 1st of October?
Well, early in September, the government had appointed the Kirit Parikh panel to look into the gas pricing formula, and they were tasked to come up with a fair price for the end consumer. So the committee has been meeting, and it has representatives from different gas companies. And we spoke to Kirit Parikh some time back, and he said that we've not been able to do justice to the gas pricing formula, to the review that we started 2 weeks ago. We need more time. This is an issue that affects a very large number of consumers, a large number of industries as well. So they will need more time to deliberate on this. So they've sought more time from the government. So this is what Kirit Parikh said. The APM prices are set for revision from the 1st of October onwards. We've reached out to the Ministry of Petroleum also for a comment on this. They are yet to respond. But the Kirit Parikh panel clearly saying they need more time to review this formula.
All right, Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. And speaking of natural gas, European nations are racing to investigate unexplained leaks into Russian gas pipelines running under the Baltic Sea near Sweden and Denmark. Both pipelines have been flashpoints in an escalating energy war between European capitals and Moscow. Neither pipeline was pumping gas to Europe at the time that the leaks were found, amidst a dispute over the war in Ukraine. And in fact, here is the latest on the Ukraine invasion. Referendums called by Russian-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine have concluded. Ukraine and the West have already slammed these referendums, calling them a sham, and have pledged to not recognize the results. Reports say that the referendums could lead to Moscow annexing 15% of the country's territory. Meanwhile, President Putin's mobilization plan is facing serious backlash in Russia. A man opened fire at a military enlistment office, injuring an officer. As per reports, he was shouting, and I quote, "No one will go to fight," end of quote. There's also been a growing discontent over the mobilization decision. In a rare occurrence, there were protests in Russia demonstrating anti-government sentiment and expressing displeasure over war drafting. The protests were met by police forces. CNBC-TV18 Sanjay Suri gets us the latest developments from Kyiv. Sanjay.
So the 4 days of referendum, as it's been officially called, in some areas of Ukraine under Russian occupation are now over. In Lugansk and Donetsk, in southern Kherson and in Zaporizhia, home to that seriously threatened nuclear plant. No one is seriously waiting for a formal verdict. That is known. A vote held by Russia in Russian-speaking areas after Ukrainians there had mostly left, a vote not quite transparent, without independent oversight. And yet, a verdict of quite another kind is evident already, and this certainly is not one intended by those working for Putin. Several reports have emerged of people being forcibly taken to vote. Election officials were seen going house to house with armed guards to get people to come out and cast their vote. Is Putin unsure about even enough Russian-speaking voters? Those he supposedly wishes to free of Ukrainian control and take back into the warm embrace of Mother Russia? If an honest count of such votes against Putin in these areas emerged as substantial, that could prove very embarrassing indeed for Putin. Or was this to protect the voters? From whom? Ukrainians are now getting tough there too in these areas. There are still Ukrainians left in these areas, and there appear also to be Russians quite happy to be a part of Ukraine, going by several indications. But without doubt, Putin now has been running into enough local resistance through this referendum, or what the Russians are calling a referendum.
Sanjay Suri, many thanks there. Sanjay Suri, our colleague, reporting there from Kyiv in Ukraine. Power Grid shares rallied today after the government rejected REC's proposal to sell its stake in Power Finance Corporation to Power Grid. Power Minister R.K. Singh told my colleague Abhimanyu Sharma that the decision is final and that Power Grid does not have the expertise in the field of financing. Remember, there was a lot of stock volatility on the back of this proposed proposal, which now the government has clarified and said is not on the table.
Power Grid is engaged in an entirely different business altogether, and they will have a controlling stake in a company which is engaged in the business of financing, about which Power Grid does not have any expertise whatsoever. So we thought about this matter, and we felt that perhaps this needs, reconsideration. We've decided that we shall not go ahead with it.
That is the Power Minister. The Adani Group has pledged to invest over $100 billion of capital over the next 10 years. Speaking at the Forbes Global CEO Conference in Singapore, Gautam Adani said that around 70% of the $100 billion investment will be directed towards the clean energy transition. Shares of Dish TV have seen a sharp decline after shareholders of the company rejected audited financial results for the last two fiscals. Shareholders also rejected appointments of S.N. Thavan and Company as auditor and Rakesh Mohan as independent director. The development company Intel says the company will not be manufacturing semiconductor fabs in India but remains committed to the India market. Stephen Long, the general manager in charge of Asia Pacific in Japan, told CNBC-TV18 that they've already invested over $8 billion in India. That's not all. He said the global chip shortage will continue till the end of 2024, and the company was investing to try and enhance capacity.
Intel is very committed to India. We have been for over 30 years. We've got over 14,000 employees here in India at the top end of what we do in the semiconductor industry, which is design and develop the technologies for the future. At this point in time, we do not have intentions to get into the manufacturing realm, but we see ourselves doing a lot for the ecosystem.
Intel on its plans for India, but they don't include manufacturing for now. It is the RBI's latest attempt towards safeguarding online payments for customers effective the 1st of October. Now, RBI's card-on-file tokenizations rule kick in, and while it protects customers' data, small businesses fear some disruption in the near term till the system stabilizes. Ritu joins us now to explain what these rules mean. Ritu.
The way you transact online using cards is about to change because starting October, merchants will no longer be allowed to store customers' card data as the new card-on-file tokenization guidelines come into force. Now, this is effectively RBI's idea of safer online payments. Tokenization, it refers to replacement of actual credit or debit card data with an alternate code, which is called a token, that is going to be unique for a combination of card, token requester as well as device. Now, these tokens can be used for online, mobile POS or in-app transactions by customers. Now, this is not going to be mandatory for you to do. Customers can choose whether or not to get their card tokenized. If not tokenized, then starting October, you'll simply have to enter the full card details every time you make an online transactions. There'll also not be any charges that are applicable for tokenizing your card, which brings us to the next bit. How do you tokenize your card? Well, it's quite simple, really. There's just a few steps involved. First, you visit the app or the website where you want to make a transaction. Now, at the payment page is the next step. You select the saved card and provide the CVV, or you enter your card details if it is not already saved. Then you tick mark the checkbox which says secure your card or save card as per RBI guidelines. And once you enter the OTP, you get a confirmation that your card is tokenized. Now, is it really safer to tokenize your card? To understand that, picture this. Currently, if you're shopping online, let's say booking a travel ticket, you are required to key in your 16-digit credit or debit card details along with your 3-digit CVV number with the travel merchant. The travel merchant then saves this data on its website with your permission so that the next time you use it, you can quickly enter your CVV and OTP to complete the transaction without having to enter that 16-digit card number. Now, this data storage on websites is what could make the customers vulnerable to any online hacks and frauds. A tokenized card, again, there the transaction is considered safer because the actual card details are not shared with the merchant during the entire transaction process. Your card details are only saved with the bank and the authorized card networks like Visa, MasterCard, etc. because RBI has told merchants to create a token reference number against each token, and only these reference numbers are stored by the merchants. Now, once a fraud is detected, for instance, the same token cannot be used and you can generate a new one. Now, while this sounds like a win for customers, in the immediate future, it could disrupt some of the small businesses because the entire system has to upgrade to comply with tokenization rules, and there could be some challenges with tech hurdles initially until the system stabilizes. To begin with, APIs that allows software and services to interact with each other and help verify and pull up data, that needs to be ready, and this has to happen both at the bank and the card network's end first, and only once they are ready can merchants certify the processes. Now, merchants have already voiced concerns that the entire chain is not ready yet, And therefore, they believe recurring payments may be the most impacted. Merchants will also have to ensure that all the customer data that they already have stored, which is not always in a single database, has to be deleted. And for smaller merchants, this could mean a temporary loss of customers as they invest in the software and achieve compliance. But ready or not, come October, and the system has to adopt to these new rules.
Ritu, many thanks for joining us and explaining what tokenization is going to mean for us starting the 1st of October. Time for us to head into a short break, but up next on India Business Hour. In a historic first, the Supreme Court live streams the hearings of its constitutional bench. That and more when we return. A historic day for the Supreme Court. The Apex Court has begun live streaming of the Constitution Bench hearings. Starting today, all hearings by the Constitutional Bench will be streamed live to the public, barring cases that involve national security. Ashma joins us now with more. Ashma, take us through the cases that were heard today.
Well, it's in this exact day, exactly 4 years back, when Justice Deepak Mishra-led bench of the Apex Court had held that sunlight is the best disinfectant, and with those words, at least in principle, had allowed for live streaming of court proceedings to take place. That idea has been taking root for the last 4 years, and finally, it's been put into action by Justice UU Lalit. Justice Lalit today made today the first day when actual proceedings from the Apex Court could be viewed by the public, you and I, through our devices, phones, laptops, by way of links that were specially put out in the public domain. The first time ever it's happening. Keep in mind that it's still restricted. Not all court proceedings are available for public viewing. Only constitution benches. Constitution benches are 5 judges of the Apex Court, a bench of 5 judges or more. These proceedings are being made available to the public. It's been welcomed by very many members of the legal fraternity who've hailed it as a measure of introducing more transparency and accountability, and of course doing away with the mystery of what happens inside the top court when key matters of national significance are being decided. Speaking of national significance, the Supreme Court Constitution Bench was hearing and in fact reserved the judgment on the challenge to reservations being provided to EWS category persons. Then there was also the dispute between the Delhi government as well as the centre on control over the national capital. And finally, of course, there was the issue of factions within the Shiv Sena fighting amongst themselves for supremacy. In fact, one key aspect, these are the arguments that were exchanged in the battle between the various factions of Shiv Sena before the top court. We get you a quick glimpse from the top court of the country. Take a look.
According to the office of the CM, the proceedings in the assembly are all under really a cloud, or they are subject to the decision of the petition.
Correct.
And therefore, according to you, the proceedings before the ECI are an offshoot of what has happened before.
Disqualification or not of an MLA has no bearing whatsoever of a member of a political party to approach the EC. I have never heard in the democratic world here that an elected government for a period of 5 years through these machinations is toppled.
There is no deal disqualification, and they want to run away from the question of actual disqualification because the new speaker has come. So, in short, my lord, I move back.
Thank you.
It is putting the cart before the horse. I don't understand why a constitution bench can't decide the basic issue and the election commission can wait. What is the value? What is the urgency? What is the balance of convenience? It is to make it irreversible.
We direct that there shall be no stay of the proceedings before the election commission. The IA is seeking stay that accordingly stand dismissed.
Very grateful. Extremely grateful.
It is allowed.
History made today in the Supreme Court. News from the aviation space. Jet Airways will not be taking to the skies necessarily this month. The spokesperson of the Jalan Kalrock Consortium has told CNBC-TV18 that the airline had targeted to launch by October and is tracking close to meet that target. They added, and I quote, "There is no deadline. Target dates are set by us alone, and we've always maintained that this is a marathon and not a sprint," end of quote. The spokesperson went on to say that they are very close to finalizing the initial fleet plan in preparation for opening the sale of tickets soon. So targeting October, not committing to it just yet, trying to track as close to it as possible. Reliance Retail has launched a new fashion and lifestyle departmental store format called Reliance Centro, with the first store opening in Delhi's Basant Kunj. Targeted at the mid-premium segment, Centro will house products across categories like apparel, footwear, cosmetics, luggage and accessories. The launch of the new format, similar to Future Group Central Mall, comes months after Reliance took over more than 800 stores of Future Retail, including Big Bazaar, FBB and Centro. And it's time now for us to take a look at the key headlines in the startup world. Arundhati Ramanan joins us now with more. Aru, over to you.
Thank you so much for that. Let's start with the key headlines from the startup world. Razorpay acquires Poshwine, a fintech startup that offers payments-linked loyalty and engagement solutions to banks, payment networks and businesses for an undisclosed amount. More from the acquisition space. Blockchain-based data exchange platform Verismart acquires AI startup Dolphin Chat for an undisclosed sum as well. Verismart will be investing $4 million in the Dolphin Chat platform over the next 24 months. In fundraising news, Chumbak raises 3 crore rupees through revenue-based financing platform Club. The company will use the fresh funds to place orders of merchandise and push discovery of its online platforms. And in global news, Elucidata, a tech bio company, raises $16 million in a Series A round led by 8 Road Ventures. The capital will be used to deepen product capabilities in translational drug research and allied markets and accelerate global expansion. And with that, it is back to you.
Arundhati, many thanks for joining us. That is the Startup Snapshot for tonight. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned. The news continues here on CNBC-TV18.